Good morning. Please have a seat. It is my privilege and honor to represent my university ecosystem as host to welcome the global dignitaries present today in our campus. Thank you so much. Good morning, Honorable Excellencies, guest minister councillors, for your gracious presence and kind agreement to share your thoughts on the topic that is probably shaping up in its estimations for the future. I'm Rahul Singh, Professor and Director, Research and International Office at IILM University. On behalf of the board and university community, I take the opportunity to welcome the honored guests and speakers. Thank you for joining this morning. This day is discussing an exciting topic, something that is the talk of the town, talk of the global society, harmonizing AI innovation and education diplomacy. We are having two panel discussions. We start with the first as AI innovation and future of global economies. Because this is economies, this is talking nations. The second is education diplomacy, where universities as bridges between nations. In a recent talk by Joel Marker, Nobel Prize winner in 2025, he got his Nobel Prize for research on impact of innovation on economic growth and how new technologies replace the older ones or that disrupts the society. A key economic concept known as creative destruction was not introduced, but got re-established. However, it was, of course, founded by Schumpeter. In Indian philosophy, we have always known this as Vidwans ke bina nirman nahi hota, which is in theoretical format, came as a creative destruction in 1950s by this technology economist Schumpeter. We still remember the Economist coming with his branded page on technology evolution, where Markel talked about the growth of the economy and distinguishes between the propositional knowledge, which is scientific, and prescriptive knowledge, which is engineering and technology. How do we connect science and technology? And Markel is talking about how technology is advancing scientific foundations. Something which used to happen in 200 years is happening in 20 years now. You name a forum that has been created today, economic forums, scientific forums, undoubtedly it has been momentous. The moment AI comes into picture for the discussion, the forums talk about the complex geopolitical issues, but artificial intelligence emerges as one of the central points. In short span, the attention moved from novelty to execution. AI has a tremendous power to move an economy. But imagine if AI remains concentrated in a small number of advanced economies, firms, and platforms, it risks reinforcing global inequality rather than narrowing it, which we have been trying through different multilateral agencies. If we study the investments required in the development of AI infrastructure and services that deliver the direct needs and benefits of the economy, we find US, European Union with its AI strategy, and China are biggest stakeholders. India is creating its space through its own processes. Developing nations are having their challenges of growth and facing, of course, the constraints to develop AI as support system of the economy. UNDP came up with a report in 2025, The Great Next Divergence. And it warns that institutional capacity remains uneven. The AI could affect around 40% of the job globally and about 60% in advanced economy. I'm just sharing a couple of numbers and theoretical foundations on how AI is disrupting economy and building the societies. But the projected benefits are greater. Globally, AI-driven efficiency gains in industry logistics, agriculture, energy, public services are projected in tune of about 15 trillion US dollar by 2030. That's strong. According to a Stanford University ranking, some of these countries like US and a couple of European Union countries and China, they are advancing very strong on AI infrastructure, India being one of the winners in the AI talent development. There are progresses. India has started its mission in 2024 with a modest target of 10,000 GPUs. I'm hopeful of your understanding of the GPU system, that the way it works in the AI ecosystem. But it has gone to 38,000, which is marvelous progress. Just very quickly on the industry side, the way industry is projecting and treating this, there has been a McKinsey report on understanding how AI is disrupting the overall economic growth through industrial evolution. They reached to about 2,000 senior leaders, CXOs around the world, the way they do it. They found 78% of the organizations are now using AI. It is unavoidable. About 71% regularly use generative AI. This is replacing a couple of the established automated systems, which is getting macro-level automation, second degree of automation. 21% have redesigned workflows. 62% of them are experimenting with new AI agents. And please imagine, we are only talking AI, we are still not talking GAI, the artificial general intelligence. That is the next step which companies slowly started creating a structure about. And lastly, about $4 trillion in annual economic value potential across 63 Gen AI uses cases. That's still small. We're talking more in numbers, right? 3x is the impact we already have. These are only few initial indicators and signals. We have to be ready with the fundamentals that are still in place and coming up slowly. We have the leaders of the global society who understand how economies and societies function. Fortunately, some of them are present with us. The panel is powerful, and the moderator, Nidhi Razdan, Director, School of Communication at Howard University, and nationally reputed media personality, is a great resource in the domain. In Indian tradition, may I request the audience, everyone present here, to please welcome His Excellency Dato Muzaffar Shah Mustafa, High Commission of Malaysia. His Excellency Juan Antonio Marsh Pujol, Ambassador, Embassy of Spain, New Delhi. And His Excellency Mr. Alonso Carimigul, Ambassador, Embassy of Republic of Panama. Thank you so much for your presence here, His Excellencies. Thank you so much. May I request, moving forward in Indian tradition, we begin the knowledge event by invoking Goddess of Knowledge. May I invite you for the lamp lighting, and I will also request Dr. S.V. Qureshi, Dr. H. Chaturvedi, and Ms. Aarti Rai, President of University, to join them for lamp lighting, please. Honored guest. Thank you so much. Thank you. I will request the dignitaries to come on the dais, and also I will request Nidhi Rajtan to take the proceedings forward. We have the honored guest now. Thank you for joining us on the stage straight. Thank you so much. Nidhi, can you take forward? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rahul sir, for that wonderful introduction, and thank you to all of you for waiting patiently. It's a privilege and an honor to be here this morning at this time to talk about an issue I think that we all identify with in some way or the other. Just particularly the students here, how many of you are using AI every day in your everyday lives now? How many of you are actually using AI actively? So pretty much everyone. So that is the impact of AI, right? It's not just high funda discussions about how it's impacting the global economy and geopolitics, some of which we will talk about today, but just how it's impacting our daily lives. And we are all, I think, from the analog world. I know, I still remember landline phones and all, and to see how technology has changed today and what it can do, I think it is so remarkable, but also so frightening at the same time. The global economy at the moment is undergoing, as you all know, so much stress. There is chaos, and perhaps now more than ever, we can look at how AI can perhaps mitigate that and change the course of what is happening at the moment. And it's wonderful to be able to talk to this distinguished panel here today about that. I wanted to begin then with an overall question about how all of you see the role of AI, let's say over the next decade or so, in the way that it could shape the trajectory of the global economy. I would like to begin with the ambassador of Spain to India. And by the way, sir, this is just a shout out to say that your Prime Minister has been extremely admirable in standing up to Donald Trump and what he's doing in the Middle East, setting an example for the rest of Europe. But your thoughts, sir, first.
Well, you know, India is one of the big countries in favor of peace. You know, peace and harmony are very rooted in this culture. And the fact that the president of Spain has been the first who has said peace but not bombs is the solution, I think has been very appreciated in this country. So coming back to artificial intelligence, to say that it's a subject for me very important. You know, I wrote a book on that, that it was published in Europe under the name Momentum, because we think that momentum is in the threshold of the new era, and I put the threshold, not the beginning, because threshold means that we must step in. So it's in our responsibility what we are going to do. Here in India, they said to me, momentum is not going to be very attractive for the people, and they put another name that is called the Great Reset, Alt, Control, Humanity. And it goes, how will be the change, in my view, in all the areas, no? So I think for the new generation is going to be key, and I think they perceive that. So we saw that 95% of them are using artificial intelligence. And my view is that it is going to change in all the areas. It's not only going to change in the jobs, it's going to change in the mobility, it's going to change in the health. Everything is going to change. But obviously, it's inevitable, because since we are in this planet, we are moving towards the era of intelligence. So we spend maybe 100,000 years as a species to survive, to be stronger than the very important animals and more powerful. And it's maybe in the last 8,000 years that we have developed very well-structured civilizations. But it's in the only 100 years, imagine it's nothing, 100 years, that we have been able to create the first global political organizations. First, the League of Nations, and then in 1945, the United Nations. So it's the first time humanity begins to treat the planet as a global species. For me, the subject is very interesting with two big layers. One, how things will change in every field. In my view, there will not be a reduction of employment. It will be an increase in jobs and employment because all is connected with the new specialities. For example, now in medicine, you think one has to be specialized in eyes, the other in liver, the other in heart. Well, in the future, it will not be like that. The specialization in eyes, maybe it will be 50 or 60 top specializations. And in the liver, you will have 150. So everything will be very specialized and very precise. And the nature has already shown to you that each individual is absolutely unique. Because in 1 centimeter of skin, you have at this moment 8 billion different combinations that are the fingerprints. So imagine what are the combination of the neurons. So to make it short, to understand, is to say that the movement of the humanity is how it makes of each individual a great source of intelligent energy.
I think it's very interesting that you say that, because I did want to come to the issue of people losing their jobs potentially because of greater automation, and you believe that the opposite will happen. So that gives us some hope, and we'll dwell into that a little more. But I'd like to ask Panama's ambassador to India, Ambassador Miguel, are you, when you look at, let's say, the next decade or so, is there a concern that as AI grows, the use of technology grows, whether that will actually further inequality between developed countries, more developing countries, and certain parts of the world, or do you think it will be able to bridge that gap?
Well, first, thank you for having me here, for having a Latin voice in the studio. And secondly, I think the discussion here is if AI, it's not going to bridge between developed and undeveloped countries, is the use of energy. Because most of the underdeveloped countries hold the energy that the developed countries need. So what is going to happen is what we're seeing. It's a confrontation for energy, oil, sun, space, rain, water. And one thing we need to be very serious and talk about is how are you going to share that space, that terrain, that energy, that water? Because if we go back to the law of the stronger, we're blowing up everything we fought for the last 90 years, the last 80, 90 years of United Nations, of CELAC, of the European Union, because the stronger country is going to look for that terrain, that energy, that water, that soil in undeveloped countries. So we need to see the AI as a tool. It's at the end of the day, it's a tool. It's like internet. It's like the printer. It's like a hammer, and it's just one of those steps that humanity takes every so often that changes everything. In 1453 was the print of Gutenberg. 80,000 years ago was someone that discovered that if you rub two sticks very hard, it makes fire. And now it's AI. It's taking out of all of these mechanical tasks we were demanded to do, counting all the pages on a book, counting all the letters if they're correct in a text, calculating the distance between that window and this seat. It's taking that out of the discussion, and it's allowing humans to develop other more creative ways of using that information. But that becomes with a price, and that price is it's energy. That new tool needs a lot of energy to work. How are we going to manage that? How are we going to share that? And how are we going to organize this world that it's already mess?
So you believe the developed world has an advantage then?
An advantage in organization, but a lack in energy, in terrain, and in fresh water. That's the most important part here is the amount of water that AI uses, the amount of energy that AI uses, and the amount of space that these servers needs for become a thing. So how are we going to share, and how are we going to discuss that sharing of these value things in the future?
I think that's a very interesting and a very important point. High Commissioner, if you wanted to weigh in a little bit on that, and Malaysia is a very important economy in Southeast Asia. What has AI meant for Malaysia's economy? And again, if you look at the next decade, do you share these concerns about how we will share this energy to drive AI-driven economies?
Very good morning. Thank you very much, first and foremost, for having me for this panel discussion. I think, to me personally, and what I believe, there's a lot of uncertainty still, despite all the anticipation what AI can bring to the world, and how things would change with AI. I mean, of course, obviously, things would not be business as usual anymore. But to me, personally, as I see it, we are entering into uncharted waters, despite all the anticipation as what during the opening remarks that we can listen, so many anticipation how things would change with the advance of AI. I mean, speaking about from Malaysian perspective, of course, the government, we like it or not, we have to embrace AI. And that's where the government is putting a 5-year action plan. Because even to me, a decade would be too long to look, because it's beyond what happened in 10 years' time. Because that's why I think what Malaysian government is looking at, even putting a 5-year action plan, and we'll see from there on how things and what are the further action we need to take. Of course, as the government put it under the National AI Action Plan 2030, from 2026 to 2030, that we aim to transform Malaysia into an AI-driven state through a 5-year plan. It focuses on, I mean, all the prerequisite for us to face the AI era in terms of talent, strengthening governance, and establishing a National AI Council for industries. Because in this action plan, we are looking at all the strategic and important sectors, for example, like the economy, and also in health, in agriculture, in all those areas that is critical to our economy. At the same time, the government also established a National AI Office under the Ministry of Digital, a central coordinating body to drive strategy, governance, and also implementation of the AI. So of course, we are looking forward to deeper international collaboration, because as what my colleague mentioned just now, because we could not face this in isolation, because we believe in international collaboration. Of course, at the same time, we are also looking inwards in how we want to prepare in terms of the inclusivity of our Malaysian people, that they are ready
Do you agree with Ambassador Pujol here that this could generate more jobs rather than take them away, or are you a little more skeptical?
I mean, we have to. I mean, of course, I think the anticipation that AI would take like 30% of the job, but what we believe, that's why I think it's part of our action plan. That is also importance of reskilling and upskilling of our job or workers, so that they can suit the AI era for that, so that they are still remain relevant in the job market.
Right, and that's important because you're preparing then your people for that transition that is already happening. Ambassador Pujol, just looking at the European Union, it has, I think, the toughest sort of laws governing AI in the world at the moment. And how is that balanced with innovation? How do you sort of, in a sense, regulate AI, but also allow innovation to thrive? How do you strike that balance?
Well, before that, I would like to make a point on how important it is to see the terms of artificial intelligence in terms of humanity, not in terms of nations. That, in my view, is key. We have to place the key element of gravity of our new world in the development of the full capacities of each individual. The nations are important as a way to structure societies. But we have to think that this is like the water. The water, what is important is the water that is in the oceans. And to arrive to the oceans, there are rivers that take the water to the oceans. But the water falls in the planet in a kind of disordered way, in all parts, and little by little it goes towards the rivers on the surface or in the internal of the land, and it goes to the ocean that is 90% of the water. The same thing happens with the humanity. We are very disparate human beings in the planet, that we are born in any part, and suddenly we structure there in communities that are the nations. Now we have 192. It's a great mosaic. We had 192. But the ideal is that all this structure of 192 was to a final point that is the one humanity. That is very important, not to place the debate on how is a developed or underdeveloped world, because it will be the divide in all the nations. We have to understand that we have gone from 3 million people in the universities in 1900 to nearly 400 million in the year 2024. So we have very literate communities, and this is where, so the great debate is how we transform how we transform the education, how we have the new generation pushing to the new world, how there are people who don't want to go to war, they want to have a world of possibilities, and they go over these fragmentations. So to move from United Nations to united humanity is the great task of those who are sitting here. So all this debate now, how the European Union would regulate, how the Americans, etc., I think is a very transitional period. Things are going so fast that we cannot cope with that. So obviously, as you say, there are like two schools, the Americans who say, everything is now breaking out. It's like the Big Bang, so we cannot stop this Big Bang. We will stop it when it is already a little bit structured. And then the European Union who says, the Big Bang is moving us to areas that we don't control, so it's better to try to control from the very beginning, So, but all this is so at an early stage that it is important, but the most important point, in my view, is not to fall in this kind of nationalistic approach. We have to understand that every time we go in someone who say, my nation will be very important, we go into a total disaster. When Hitler said, Germany has to be big and I have to create the Third Reich, what was the result? 45 million people dead. When Trump arrives and says, I'm going to do American great again, what we have? Whole distortion of all the economy of the world. So I would say to the new generation, please don't be caught in the trap of making a great nation. be on the trap of making a great humanity.
Well, that's very well said. But as you pointed out, the world, in a way, has become so much more insular while we are so interconnected, whether it's Trump or when you see the rise of the far right in so many European countries. And I guess that's going to be a challenge, not to think of your country first, but to look at it as shared humanity. But Ambassador Miguel, what concerns you? Do you think when you hear the ambassador's comments and what you said earlier about the fight for energy and so on, is it possible to have a genuine international collaboration on AI? Whether it's looking at genuine collaboration, innovation together, even regulation, is that possible?
No, possible it is. We saw the AI summit a few months ago. It happened. It gathered plenty of...
You saw a summit, but are you seeing genuine collaboration?
No. I'm seeing this summit as a first step. This summit is the just a dash of what joint interest on developing AI might become. So this might be hard. It's not going to be easy because I like to use the metaphor of when bones grow. It hurts. When you're growing, it hurts a little bit. So it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be cumbersome. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. But at the end of the day, it needs to be. So we're going to see this type of summits being replicated all over the world until everything converges in a pot, and everyone realizes that it's better to use the already established European rules on AI, the American mindset of economy in the AI, and a little dash of multiculturalism that comes from the Indian perspective of AI. So you need to first allow these summits, allow these meetings, allow everyone to get a grasp on AI because it's a recent tool. It become economically viable to use in 2020. It's only 6 years on. The internet need over a decade to become a commodity and a household thing. The laptops need over almost 20 years to become something so popular that anyone here has a laptop or a computer with them. The cell phones are another example. We just need to give time to this. It's very new. We're still in the amaze moment. We're seeing everything very amazed. Everything is awesome. You input some text and it gives you an image. Let that moment pass. Let the summits happen. When everything goes back to normal, to regular.
Then the water will sort of find its own level.
Exactly. We're right now in the tip of the wave. Let the wave die a little bit, and the ripples will give us all these conjoined ventures of AI.
High Commissioner, do you agree with that? Just let the waves sort of keep rolling, or are you in favor of more regulation? Is it even possible to do that? Or do you believe that this is the time to let AI flourish, let innovation happen?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, of course, I think what the Spanish ambassador mentioned, the humanity, is the main keyword that we should look. Because it's up to us how we look at it. Because it's either a competition or it's a collaboration. Because eventually we're going to achieve the same result, for example, but how we look at it is either by competition or is by collaboration. Of course, I think there are a lot of challenges how we can work and find a common position on certain issues because of the completing interests between, for example, like the developing world and also the developed world. But maybe what we can settle on is on maybe certain core areas that we can work on. For example, like developing world can play its own role in trying to mediate between the conflicting interests between nations. The challenges are there, but I mean, we go back to the history because of the conflict that the global conflict that we are facing. But eventually, we managed to handle it well through a multilateral platform that we can come together and we can agree on certain things, the core values that we need to achieve and to sustain the humanity in general.
Well, it's nice to see there's a lot of optimism on the panel about collaboration and working together. I also wanted to open this up for a few questions from the audience. If you do have a question, please raise your hand. Do I see one hand raised there? Do we have a mic for audience questions? Or would you like to stand up and come forward and... You're a young man, you can speak up. We've got your mic now.
So my question is for the entire panel. How can smaller countries ensure they're not just rule takers, but rule makers in active global AI governance?
Sorry, can you repeat?
How can smaller countries ensure that they are not just rule takers, but active rule makers in global AI governance?
Okay. So how do smaller countries ensure that they're not bullied into following rules set by bigger countries? If Ambassador Miguel, you want to take that, like how do, well, apart from the Americans, how do the rest of us assert ourselves?
Exactly.
You choose me first because I'm the smallest country, right?
I didn't.
Not on this panel.
Really nice long gurkha.
Thank you.
Well, first it's part of the diplomatic work. We need a serious diplomatic court, not just people that goes around and comes to panel to say things. We need discussions overseas. We need presence in United Nations, in the CELAC, in the SICA. Panama, for example, our external policy it's not as close to the world is one family to India, but we want to be the bridge of the world. We want to be the platform that supports everyone that goes in the right way. We don't want to be allies with the evil axis, but we want to be a part of the discussion, making bridge and doing things that connects ideas. So one simple thing that small countries can do to not be under the foot of bigger countries is aligning with other countries that are in the similar position, because there's this in the Bible there's this story that if you take one stick, try to break it, it's simple to break it. You can break it to as many pieces as you want. But if you took a bundle of sticks and try to break it, that's not as easy, and it's not going to break that easy. So we want to be part of all these multilateral pluri-platforms that allow us to be bridges into good ideas, to be bridges into peace converging platforms, and to show that it needs to be upfront. We cannot be silenced by shame or shy. We need to be upfront, we need to be vocal, we need to be there, we need to discuss these type of things. And that's why I think first, in this AI scheme of things, first we need to hear all the opinions, see all the variants, allow these summits to show everyone model of using AI. So when the 3, 4, 5 models that really work and really converge into good things, allowing people to use it, allowing people to be protected against it and allowing models to grow economically and socially, we need to be a bridge between the big countries that want to do it their way and the good idea. That's the part of small countries to not be, he said, rule takers.
But rule makers, part of
be,
those making the rules.
Being rule makers. It's aligning with the good ideas, aligning with the other small countries that might be.
So multilateralism matters.
Exactly, multilateralism.
Remind somebody.
And if we would like to answer the question of the benefit or the usage of AI, we should consider how we use it. Are we going to use it for the benefit of mankind through developing health, education, social welfare, or are we going to use it for control and domination? If we know that, as all of us, that most of these sophisticated, instruments were developed through military industry, and then eventually introduced to civil usage. And we recall in Gaza, what happened in Gaza, they used AI to upload the system to the drones to monitor and assassinate people. So lots of mistakes happened there. So this is the question. And going back to what my colleagues, Ambassador said, that now lack of cooperation is, a matter of concern to us as diplomats and as countries. And seeking domination and seeking some, policies that, undermine UN and international law and international humanitarian law, and lack of impunity. So what we are saying, that it's not always developing things turns to be for benefit of mankind. Sometimes, if it falls down in the wrong hands, it's going to be a disaster for all of us. So this is the question, the morality of usage of AI. This is what I'm just would like to stress on. Thank you very much.
That's an excellent question, Ambassador. Would you like to take that and just to sort of extend from that the use of AI then in modern day warfare, whether it is information, disinformation, deep fakes, and the use of drones and other technology today that we're seeing play out in such a big way currently in the Middle East?
Well, I don't know if it exists in English, but in Spanish we say that the excellent is enemy of the good, So I think we have to understand that our life is always in this kind of dual dimensions, the good and the bad. So we cannot think that the bad will not exist. The bad will exist. The importance is that the good is stronger than the bad. It's like when we have in the economy, you have a free economy. Okay, you can commit fraud. And you can make illegal activities. The importance is you are well organized, that once these illegal activities or these frauds happens, you have the means to stop it. But you cannot say that from the beginning you will stop the existence of fraud or illegal activities. So I think that we have to live in a kind of good world, not excellent world, and we have to organize ourselves in such a way that the forces of the good are stronger than the forces of the bad. That is my way of living. But I would like to add something totally different, but it's connected with the new jobs and the new employments, I was in the Festival Literature of Jaipur, and they asked me, how artificial intelligence is going to impact on literature. It will be the end of the literature. And I said, I think that literature is a little like modern art connected with photography. When there was, humanity has been painted to reproduce what existed from the very beginning, in the caves, in the realism, etc. So when it was invented, the photography, someone said, is the end of the painters. And what happens that the painters, they renewed themselves. They went into another field that they painted what didn't exist. They painted at the beginning the surrealism and then the abstract art. So literature will be more or less, in my view, the similar. Literature has two legs. One is the capacity to find the exact words to transmit a knowledge, and the other is the content. So there are many people who have incredible contents to communicate to the others, but they have not the means to do that. Through artificial intelligence, we're going to have a great potential of ways of seeing life, of experiences that are now totally closed in the brains of the individuals that will appear to the people.
May I ask you a small counter question to that, since you raised this, which is that, is there a danger though that we actually, is there a danger that we stop using our brains because it's so easy to ask Claude or Perplexity or Gemini or whoever to type out an article for us? Or I mean, there's a huge debate about the morality of using AI in literature, as you said, in journalism. I was reading today, I think the New York Times has fired a book review editor because they asked AI to write the book review, and AI unfortunately copied it from a Guardian review a few months, parts of it.
I would say that unfortunately is not the case. I say unfortunately because you have no rest. You know, the new life is totally be connected with the brain. So the same that nowadays you have no times because people call you at any moment to the mobile or send you a message. You have no timetables. The same thing is happened to the brain, you know. We are moving for the good or for the bad to human beings that the dimension of the brain is going to be every time more important. When we were in the Industrial Revolution, what we had? We had a worker in a textile industry that was moving the arms onwards and backwards during 12 hours. So the whole order of the brain was to give the order to the brains to go on and back, on and back. So that was very limited. Now you have, where you had 2,000 workers, now you have 200 enterprises with only 15 people, and half of them are on a brain issue. So I think we're moving towards there very fast for humanity, and my favorite book in life is the Odyssey of Homero, and is a book that shows the way to escape from all the problems. So we are at the end, and with this I finish, we are on the end of the encyclopedistic period. You know, at a certain moment there was a French culture that said your brain has to contain all the knowledge, and it was encyclopedia. Well, the knowledge has become so big, so large, that it's impossible to have all the compendium. And the other way is how the brain finds the solution to everything. So you will have every time more the people connected with finding the solutions than having the knowledge inside themselves. That's going to be the big difference.
Ambassador.
No, I just wanted to ask, because this panic of losing our brain capacity over AI that does basically everything, it's just that, it's panic. When was the last time someone here transcribed a book by hand?
Never.
Never, right? When was the last time you opened an encyclopedia to look for the meaning of something? About 20 years ago, 26 years ago, right? This is just another step. It's taking out, as Ambassador here just said, it's taking out all the mechanical tasks we are already doing. And we have interiorized that those tasks are the meaning of work. But that's not true. Meaning of work, it's getting the work done. That's it. It's as redundant as that might hear, but the meaning of work is doing a task that it needs you to go from point A to point B. The how doesn't matter. If you use AI to calculate a sheet of documents and tell you how many letter E's it has, it's going to be quick and you're going to end faster. And
But you've been a journalist, so is it okay to use AI to write your article or your column?
I was just going there. But there's something, there's in philosophy, there's a characteristic that I'm in love with that characteristic and that definition. Have you ever experienced this in a very well-lit night with a full moon? You see up in the sky and see the moon and you say, wow, that moon is amazing. I'm going to take a picture of it. And you drag your phone out and took a picture of the moon and you see it and the moon doesn't look the same way that you're seeing it. That is the aura of the moment. That is the meaning of what it's being human, because you as a human know what aesthetics are, what beauty things are, and how they look, but technology doesn't present it the same way. So, in journalism, there are tasks. Again, counting, if you're doing a report on a fraud scheme of the government and you need to count all the pages and all the information, there's going to take a lot of time and you need to present that report in the morning. So I don't see it as a trap, as a fraud, if you use a tool to count that and you make the report your way. You put your essence in that text, because that's what makes us human, that essence, that aura of the moment. Taking a picture of the moon might solve some problems, and it's going to work
but it may not
many of
capture
the
the moon
times.
the way.
But you need the context to know when to use it and when to put yourself in that place.
I think that's very well put and sort of answers that morality question to some extent. I would take one last question before we wrap up. Yes.
Hi everyone, so I'm Dr. Mansi. I'm from School of Computer Science and Engineering. I just have one question. In the light of recent incidents, we have seen the government sought access to the data, data of users. So, what do you think? How do you think that the privacy and ethics can be safeguarded in this kind of era? That's it.
Anybody want to take that question about guarding the privacy and data?
Having the access for the user
government
data.
access
Yes.
to citizens. Is that going to be more compromised? High Commissioner, if you want to take that, would that be more compromised in the age of AI? Does it make it more difficult, challenging?
Yeah, of course, I think it's going to be a big challenge. That's why I think any government would, given a lot of emphasis on the sovereignty, AI sovereignty. I think that's the key word for any government to protect the data, so that in terms of the data, so that it will be confined to certain geographical areas, rather than the challenges of course that is quite difficult for any government to tackle that issue. That's why I think we need international collaboration. For example, like for Malaysia, we're talking about Malaysia, we are also working with other ASEAN countries at the regional level, and we can form a stronger voice at the international level, at the UN, and also at the other multilateral level, to protect our interests, especially in the smaller countries like Malaysia. And we would like to also to work with, for example, like India, wherever India has the cutting edge in certain areas of AI.
Right. Well, please give a big round of applause to our panel today. I think that was a very, very interesting, fascinating discussion where we covered so many different aspects of the challenges of AI, how it impacts the global economy, and veered into some of the questions we all face in our day-to-day use of AI as well. I'd like to invite Dr. Chaturvedi, our Director General at IILM Lodi Road, and the COO of IILM University, Manika Raikwar, to please felicitate our panelists today. Thank you very much to the envoys for being with us, and I'd like to ask Manika to please take over the proceedings from here. Thank you.
If I can just ask everyone to please continue sitting, and we're just going to start the next panel. So thank you so very much, for sitting and listening to the first panel. But I promise you the next one's going to be as interesting, because we spoke of AI, and now we're going to speak to something that's closer to our heart about universities and education and what's going on, and how universities can be bridges of diplomacy in the times that we are seeing nowadays. So if I may invite our very esteemed guests, the Minister Councillor from Venezuela, the Councillor from Sri Lanka, and the Minister Councillor from Spain to please come and take their seats. Thank you, gents. If you could please. I think Sri Lanka and we are kind of far away. India and Sri Lanka are very closer physically as countries, but just we're waiting for the Minister Councillor from France to join us. But thank you, gentlemen, so much. Just before that, we had a panel on artificial intelligence. So if I could start just with that, in education, in Sri Lanka, for instance, Mr. Mahesh, if I could start with you, how are the universities in Sri Lanka dealing with AI? Because we do see, in Indian universities, AI has started to take on, but I think, thank you so much for coming. How is it something that is being adapted organically, or is there a battle to deal with AI in universities?
So good afternoon all, and first of all let me at the outset thank you for the faculty for the invitation. Well, I think the matter of AI and particularly the disruptive technologies, I think it's inevitable that these institutions sort of at some point or the other get sort of adapted to all these technologies. So the current context in Sri Lanka is that we do have very strong state-sponsored kind of an institution network. Of course, some of these institutions are quite old, that date back to the British period. Now, looking from the actual physical and administrative arrangements in the universities, well, to a certain extent, these technologies are being used right now. But I do understand, I mean, coming from the previous discussion, the very last bit of it, well, how to regulate without compromising the creativity of students and the appetite to, do research by themselves
is very much the matter to be concerned with. So it reminds me of one of my professors back in Seoul. He told me, Mahesh, some of these technologies are right now at the evolving phase, and they can be quite strong in the sense of logic, but it could be erroneous factually. So I think when it especially comes to the research and development, I think it is inevitable that, including Sri Lankan institutions, sort of, get into this. But at the same time, from the very essence of it and the very objective of education is not necessarily to be like savvy with technologies and all that. We are looking after this perfect person. So for that matter, I think human agency will remain intact, but as I just told you, well, it's going to happen. It's happening already.
Mr. Thevios, if I could come to you. In Australia, we've kind of seen, and I wanted to move away, there's been a ban for the use of, social media apps, etc., for under 16s. Where in a world of AI, and Australia is sort of, already talking about moving children away from the usage of social media apps, technology. How do you sort of, how do the two sync is really my question. And a lot of countries after Australia sort of spoke about it, the UK is now considering it. So how do the two sync is my question.
That's a very good question. I would like to say I am currently learning Hindi, so I need to say something to you all before I start, which is Mujhe yahan aakar bahut khushi ho rahi hai. Because if I didn't, I would be in trouble from my teacher.
Oh.
I've been here for 12 months, but now I'm starting to study Hindi. When you talk about AI, AI is very interesting. AI dictates our lives at the moment, whether we know it or not. What do we do in the morning when we wake up? We actually look at when we live in New Delhi, we want to look at the traffic, we want to get traffic updates. We look at the weather, we look at the AQI levels. AI tells us whether we should wear a hat or sunscreen or whether we should go outside. So in terms of what we do, it's very interesting. When I look on YouTube or when I wish to choose a movie, AI also tells me what I may wish to watch after that. So the first movie I watched, according to AI, was Bahubali. Bahubali 1, Bahubali 2. I watched in my first week here. It's interesting. People think I look like one of the characters from Bahubali. I did ask people if I look like Prabhas. Unfortunately, someone there is holding their hand up. I may look like someone else, maybe Katapa. Correct? Anyway, which is fine. I know he was a murderer, which worried me, but he's a very noble murderer, so I think that might sit okay. So AI has suggested, and it is suggestive. If AI is clever, it sits in the background. So I've continued my journey in terms of movies, in terms of music, Arijit Singh, Diljit Dosanjh. I've watched many, many films, 42 now. I always bring a list just in case. I have watched Duranda. I am listening to some songs from that. Shararat, which is obviously the most famous song. Do you know Lut Ligaya? Oh, well, I know Lut Ligaya from the same movie. So anyway, favourite song though is Tum Hi Ho by Arijit Singh, which was suggested by AI. So I do talk to humans. So sorry, back to your question. AI does surround us. It's very important that we think about the ethical use of AI. And when we are looking at a ban on, young people with social media, it is important to look at what has brought that about. And we know there's a history of bullying. There's one young girl in Australia that died as a result of bullying. When I was young, I think a lot of us have been through some sort of bullying. I am the child, a very old child now, of Greek migrants. So I look different from the other students, as I would think some of our Indian students in Australia, people that are growing up, we have 1 million Indians in Australia, they are growing up and perhaps they look a little bit different, their food is different. I have been through this as well, but to have differences in the schoolyard is very, very different because when you leave the schoolyard, you have your friends, you can move away from that sort of thing. But unfortunately, currently with social media, it's difficult to move away. There are all those apps that you are able to access where those people are able to access that, and it is not healthy for you. So, absolutely, we have got a ban on those, and that's brought about by the Australian government. We're still working through how that does work and how successful it is. But the other side is we do use AI. AI is present. It doesn't mean it is banned completely. We are using it in our universities. Like me, I'm a little bit older. A lot of your teachers, your professors, I think, are going through retraining as well. They are using AI as well. How do we use it ethically? How do we use it to improve what we are doing? But we need to be careful about its use. So I think it's important. Those two things can coexist. But what we need to do is make sure that we protect the vulnerable as well. So yeah, so we'll see. I think a lot of countries are watching and are looking at this social media ban for 16 and under. And obviously they're watching with great interest. But we will see how that comes about, but the two can live together, as many, many things in different countries live together as well.
The first thing I want to say is, आपके आने से हमें भी बहुत खुशी मिली है. And if you understand that, your teacher is going to give you... That's it. But after your fantastic sort of statement on Indian films, I think everyone else in the panel will have to go through it, and I don't think they want to. But if I can speak to the Minister, Counselor of Venezuela, you know, we were talking about the world being quite a complete mess right now with whatever that is happening. So much of research that happens, you know, whether it's to in terms of benefiting the military or in terms of benefiting people or humanity at large, happens in universities. Outside of AI, and I want to put that question actually to all of you, outside of AI, what is that particular one area of innovation or education that you see is gaining momentum nowadays?
Well, out of the artificial intelligence is a bit difficult because it's what is dominating now the international scene. And then, you know, research is very important. This is like this. I am a person that comes from a more humanistic background than scientific. Because in Venezuela, we divide very strongly. For example, in the high school, you can select between the high school in humanities or high school in sciences. So in my case, I study in humanities because this allowed me to enter in the easily to the School of International Relations. And at that time, there were no other way to research than to go to the library. You go to the library, you used to have like a little, I don't know, the little paper like this that you look in drawers.
Like a library card?
Like a library card, exactly. And then you spend a lot of time in the library, in my case, even entire weekends in the library, that I would prefer to be at the beach, for example, or in the cinema. By the way, I also saw many films. And yes, But in the last Habitat Film Festival, I saw 17 films. 17, okay? So that is not so impressive like your 42, but okay.
We will compare.
Better don't compare, no. And also my ambassador, if she knows about this, she got to be upset that I was taking some little time also to go to the... but research is very important and it's still been very important. And the way how to do it, you know, just change, like some of the previous speakers here were stating. You know? And in the case of what specialties, I think computer science is the one that is now number one, I think, out of the specifically area of the artificial intelligence. No? But there are also important in the area of the creativity, like for example, fashion design. You know, I was this last when this was this weekend, Saturday. I was in the CGC University in Mohali, and I visited they have a museum for the fashion design faculty. You know, that they work with natural materials. You know, and this also needs research, because you are researching not only the quality of the material, but also from what regions each material comes, and in certain cases, these are material used for the tribes and for the different communities. So research is very important. Unfortunately, and I say this from my point of view of diplomatic, because I have a career of 33 years already in this field, that now we are experiencing in the international relations like a lack of credibility, lack of trust, because the disaster that is happening right now, like breaking of all rules, there is, you know, a kind of law of the jungle mentality, but I am still thinking that there is more good people than bad people in the world, and as the ambassador of Panama was expressing before, in this, in the history is approved that there is, this is like a cycle after cycle after cycle, some of them very, very dark times. And we imagine that after the Second World War, we will be out of the probably worst situation, and then started the United Nations, when I have the privilege to participate even in the, when they celebrate the 50th anniversary, I was there, and also in some other occasions. And this has still been a stage for discussion, but let's go to see when the current most powerful rulers finish in their period of time, to see what's going to be the situation. Because not from now, but from before, the United Nations had been subject of many critics, especially for the control that some countries have in the decision taking. You know? Like, you know that the reform of the Security Council had been an issue for many years, you know? And then this is something that continues being, because if I have a veto power, even if this resolution is very good, I can stop it, because it's against my interest. So research is very important, and we continue to research by any way, with the artificial intelligence or by the traditional ways. Look, I am still using this. And then, because, you know, I am the old-fashioned person in many aspects, and I was surprised, for example, to see there is a famous Chinese pianist. I like music very much, and the name of her is Yuya Wang. Fantastic pianist and very beautiful also. And then she used the tablet or something, you know, to put it. And I am always nervous. But I think, what if this failed? And this blank what's she got to do? Because she's a talent. But why? If she doesn't know the partiture, you know, exactly like it is. So I prefer to use the traditional paper and all methods for research.
Well, we could lose our papers, but I do have to say that 4 people on this panel, including the moderator, are holding papers. We're really, except the young Sri Lankan minister councillor who's like, I can get away with this. But if I can sort of move on to France now, it's very interesting because Mr. Gorlick spoke about trust. And trust is really lacking in the world today. And outside of what is happening in terms of conflicts and wars, I think even in the area of education, a lot of countries are possibly looking inwards and talking more about, do we want students coming in from abroad, or do we want to take in foreign students? And I wanted sort of your take on that, because so much of the world today is about collaboration and about, you know, people getting together in safe spaces like universities. So.
Thank you so much. So I think your question is very interesting because it's highly related to the first question, in fact. That when thinking to the first question, you know that now we are talking about AI. All over the day we talk about AI. There is no single day that we don't talk about AI, as my colleague said. But then sometimes something like 2-3 years ago, we were talking about resilience because we were out of COVID And at that time, nobody spoke about AI at the time of COVID. And COVID is very recent. It's not like 50 years ago. We were talking about resilience, and because this COVID was a crisis, and this crisis hurt our organization in general. So we have to think about health system, about work system, work remote, stay away from colleagues or whatever, same for sports. So it strikes the organization in general. And at that time, we spoke about resilience, how to resist, how to face such crisis. And AI is also, in a way, a crisis, maybe a positive crisis, because AI also strike our organization, same as COVID, not in the same way, of course, but the challenge is the same. We have to adapt. And the term of resilience is very strong, and behind that, this is a question of soft skills. So a part of AI, we still need a lot of soft skills, like open-mindedness, like ability to criticize, a lot of different values which are strongly related to science. And I do agree with Minister Chancellor from Venezuela about research, because research is promoting all of these values related to open-mindedness and ability to understand what is said and to evaluate what is said. So, and all of this is not related to a pure fundamental science like mathematics, health, or computer engineering, but it's more related to soft skills. And then when you move to that, to the second question, it's strongly related, because when you are talking about trust, when you are talking about collaboration, about mobility, again, I think it's related to this spirit that should be brought in front of stage when we deal with soft skills. In terms of open-mindedness, for example, you have to be open-minded when you do research, because you have to put some hypotheses. Some hypotheses are right, some are wrong, and you have to be honest with yourself and evaluate how good or not is your hypothesis. And that's the same when you go abroad. And if you want to study abroad, you have to be open-minded and meet the people, and they have to be open-minded to welcome you. And from my point of view, this is the most important challenge in the world, to be open-minded, because it serves not only research, but it serves the peace also. And this is the reason why Europe is so strong, because Europe is multilateral. In Europe, you can hear your friend, you can disagree with your friend, but you can always discuss with your friend, and you don't have to rely on one single point of view. So multilateralism is very important, and in this framework, this really help, I think, education and mobility, and everything is in the trust side.
Mr. Mahesh?
Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Dhanyavad. In terms of trust, I absolutely agree what my colleague is saying, but one of the things that we have between Australia and India, and you talked about trust in education, is a very, very strong relationship between the Indian and the Australian government, particularly in the area of education. So Australia has a Australia-India education strategy, which was launched in 2023, which complements the NEP of 2020, which talks about internationalisation, and really internationalisation is about trust. So people talk about the universities here, the Australian campuses that are opening. There are a handful that will be coming. We have 2 already. I have attended a graduation from Deakin University, which was the first international campus to open. They are small numbers, but this is all built on trust. This is built on the work that's been done over a number of years. We've had universities here with memorandums of understanding, research partnerships, with many, many Indian universities. And that has been happening for a number of years, and even in the area of skills as well. So without that trust, without the build-up of that trust, I do not think we would be here. We have dual degrees as well, where a student could do 2 years of their degree in India and 2 years of their degree in Australia. Our ministers have a very, very good relationship. The Honourable Minister Pradhan and also the Honourable Minister Clare from Australia. Their relationship is so close that a couple of years ago, when Minister Clare came to India, Minister Pradhan decided, they were here in New Delhi, that he would take Minister Clare to see the India Gate, which is fine, but someone forgot to tell the security officers. So he said to our minister, just jump in the car and we will go and we will have a look at India Gate. Well, you can imagine what sort of a little bit of panic ensued for a few moments, but that tells you a lot about the relationship between the ministers, but also the countries, and the sort of relationships that I know the academics here have with academics in other countries. Many of you have either worked in other countries, or you all know each other, or you have good relationships with academics elsewhere. This is all built on trust and knowing each other, and looking at how each of our countries and other countries can work together to get the best product, to make sure they get the best outcomes. And certainly I know that all these academics, as well as the Australian ones, put the students at the heart of everything to make sure that they are prepared for the future, for the jobs they will go into, whether it's research, whether it's occupations. It's very important. But that trust, I think, is very, very present in the education system and in terms of all the people that are in the audience here today. Sorry, if that was okay to...
Dhanyavad. No, Mahesh, I was asking that Sri Lanka and India collaborate on a lot of things. In terms of building academic partnerships, the panel has spoken about that, but I wanted to just, because minister counselors and embassies really serve as that first soldier on the border to get a sense of what is happening. What is it that you really look for in these partnerships?
Well, I think, I just want to add a little bit on to what I was actually building up on. So, the very essence of this whole exercise of education and this whole effort by all of us, it accounts to one factor, that is knowledge creation. So, knowledge creation is ultimately, intrinsically, it's connected with the wealth creation process. So that's what the neoclassical growth theory says. So you really have to focus on the human capital. But add on to what the panel is discussing right now, I feel like we also have to be cognizant of some of the common issues like global public goods. Like, for instance, take the climate change issue into account. So no country is immune from this kind of issues. So it is, there is a great incentive on all countries right now to collaborate. That's one issue, because the way education has evolved over time, the modern education system coming from Italy, France, and from the European side of it, you have seen it has come as sometimes as a reaction to some of the issues we face, in day-to-day life. So I think, given the circumstances and other issues right now surrounded by us, so probably there'll be great affinity on all sides to cooperate and to find sustainable solutions. To answer to your first question about what disciplines would be more attractive in days to come, well, I'm not that old. Well, but I can say right now, as things stands, now the research aspect would be more interdisciplinary. You may be good in mathematics, be it chemistry or physics, but it is quite, I think it's inevitable that you get into the social sciences and the environment, climate change and all that. That way, AI is really an enabler. You don't have to really do literature review for 10, 15 days right now. As to the extent, the technology is available right now. Coming back to Sri Lanka and India collaboration, as I think our French colleague was saying, look, we happen to be enablers. What we do here is, we see opportunities which is mutually beneficial to both countries. And we try to forge partnerships and, get people on board. So every MOU signed, every agreement signed is very much a platform for the academia to get on board and to pursue the cause. So from my side, my line of work has been to deal with you all here, the institution, and to see where things could be, sort of improved, and to bring it back to my country. So I think we should be really thankful to the government of India, especially the Prime Minister, the kind of assistance extended to us and to our community has been enormous, and it has been very well received. Thank you.
That's great. But you know, you spoke of collaboration, and the Australian Minister Councillor spoke of student first. And I wanted to ask you, Mr. Goldnick, that in times like these, you know, where honestly flights are not taking place, everyone's staying where they are. Yes, there is the internet and we can do Zoom calls, but, and we've discussed that aspect of humanity. Where does collaboration stand in an era of suspicion and cynicism? Where does that stand, and where are we putting children and students first?
Well, I've been proved during all these years that I was working, and I had been working in this area, that the interinstitutional agreements functions much better than the intergovernmental agreements. Because in many cases, you can hear, sign a memorandum of understanding, and nobody knows about this paper anymore in history, because it's go to a drawer and finish. So I think it's very important to, because first it's like this, you need to have an intergovernmental memorandum of understanding, like a first step, you know, and then come the interinstitutional agreements. And then the follow-up. This is very important. For example, I have here recently, in February 2025, the now President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, she came to attend the 3rd India Energy Summit. And she came with big delegations, among them the Vice Minister for the Development of Information and Communication Technologies. And he signed a memorandum of understanding. I need to read here because it's very long, the name. On digital cooperation. Was signed between the Ministry of Popular Power for Science and Technology of Venezuela and the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology of the Republic of India. So what happened since then is that we still consider the human contact very important, not to do everything only through the you know, email messages, or even we're still using something that we send for email, but it's similar to the old fax, you know, something like a communication that you send to the counterpart, and then this arrives here to the embassy, and you need to prepare a note verbal for the Ministry of External Affairs of India. So we believe more in the direct contact. So the last year after this gentleman, Raúl Hernández, the one who signed, he came, and he made another visit to New Delhi to meet with the Indian authorities responsible for this area. And it's planned that the relevant Venezuelan authorities will receive an Indian delegation next May to follow up on what was agreed in the aforementioned document. So this is important. It's necessary to follow up everything that you do, because if not, it's like we say in Spanish, letra muerta. It's dead word. So it's very important to really to be successful in this endeavor, to really follow up what we are doing, especially because the government changed. And probably, which is important for the current government, it will not be important for the next one. So try to advance as soon as possible in this government, so that way you have solid base for the next government to still doing things in this area.
I think that's a problem most diplomats would face when governments change. Okay, this is not that important anymore, out of the window to the next. But Mr. Gascoigne, if I could ask you, and then we'll take questions from the audience. So much is being made of AI and technology, but at the same time, there are a lot of leaders who are speaking about the importance of studying liberal arts and to study writing and poetry and literature, because, you know, in the future, as technology takes over so much, where is that original thought going to come from? And French universities have always been pioneers in that. Are you looking at more collaborations, not just in India, but around the world, for similar sort of projects or research?
Sure. So social and human sciences are very very important in France, for sure. So we invest massively in terms of research. And it's same for Europe, because we have a framework program for research called Horizon Europe, funding massively also the social and human sciences, and this is truly for France. In France, we have 3 research institutions in India, specifically for social and human sciences. One is CSH in Delhi, one is IFP in Pondichéry, and one is FAO, also in Pondichéry. So we study social and human sciences together with India, and we do that in all the countries in the world. Maybe not all, of course, but in most of them. Why it's so important is that when you want to know where to go, it's important to know where you come, and it's important when you develop a technology that you will get sure that it will contribute to the need of the people. So it's about socialization, utilization. So of course, social and human sciences are very important, also for the technology development. So we are thinking more and more with India as a partner to progress in this way and see how we could have more social and human sciences involved in the development of technology. Otherwise, technology, you know, all the countries are looking for technology. Most of them are doing engineering studies, and what is sure is that sooner or later, all the countries in the world will be able to develop their own technology. Maybe some will be on top, high-end, some will be maybe kind of low-end or low-tech, but however, it's all about innovation and technology, and all the countries can do that. But not all the countries invest in social and human sciences, because it costs a lot of money, and there is no direct impact. Maybe there are some in terms of policy making, which is of course very important, and we can see that in the health sector. When you are looking for everything related to health, medicine, social sciences are very, very important for sure. But when we are moving to technologies, sometimes we forget about this. And what we believe is that in the future, what will make the difference between the different countries, because you see that AI is a massive game changer. You can, even if you have no knowledge in one field, you can rapidly get some basic knowledge and apply them and develop some products. And so that means that on the way for technology development, AI will be a big change. But what cannot be obtained through AI is social and human sciences. So we believe that this can support on the long term the development of technologies in a different way. So for this reason, we invest with all the partners, and India, of course, is a strong partner.
Right. Okay, I'm going to open this up to the audience now. For any questions, please raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you. Here, can we get a mic here?
Hello, sir. Thank you very much for such a wonderful exposition. I would introduce myself as Professor and Director, School of Law, IILM University, Greater Noida campus, and would also like to introduce myself as a former functionary of the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, and a former functionary of Indian Parliament. I just would like to ask a question with regard to the collaboration between the universities in terms of education, more specific to legal education. So being in your respective offices, I'm sure you must have experienced the kind of development that is taking place in terms of education. So I would request you to please enlighten us on the kind of MOUs that are being signed between Indian universities and universities of your respective countries. Secondly, I would also like to ask and make a suggestion that if you see, private universities are really doing very well in India, and they are booming up with dynamism in terms of growth and development in education and technology. So could there be any proposal where these private universities, recognized universities, could have MOUs at formal level, at government level, with the foreign education institutions, which could be more economic for betterment of the students? Thank you very much.
Who wants to take that one? Go ahead.
That's a very good question. So one of the things is that we do not restrict our universities in terms of memorandum of understanding. So they take place, in most cases, independent of what I do as the Minister Counsellor for Education and Research. We are alerted by it, but where we find out these very rich collaborations happen is where someone here will know someone in Australia. As I said, they have worked together, and what they will do is they will work up a memorandum of understanding between the two universities. It's not between the Australian government and the Indian government, but these are independent of, which is good because they maintain their independence as well. So it really is, again, about that trust, about those relationships. And I know that some of these MOUs have crystallised from two academics meeting at a summit, or two academics having studied together somewhere, or having commented on a research paper, and that's where these happen. The only thing I would say about MOUs is to make sure when these MOUs are signed, that what we do, or what happens is, they should be integrated into what is happening currently with each of the universities, because what we have found in the past is there are some universities that like to collect MOUs. So it may look interesting where a university in any country has 20, 30, 40, 50 MOUs, which is wonderful. But how many of those are actually working at the moment? How many have currency, and what are they doing? That's number one. The second one is there needs to be a way to ensure that we have a structure around those MOUs that are working with each of those universities, so that when a particular personality or individual leaves and goes to another university, and I know the education ecosystem, everyone knows each other and they do move around, that MOU doesn't then stop or just sit on the shelf. So that is the advice that I have, that they do have currency and that they aren't based on individuals. But again, if you want to, we can organise to reach out to some of the Australian universities in particular areas if you don't have those contacts.
Yeah, I think that really answers it. Let's not have things sitting on the shelf as pieces of paper. Let's have true collaborations. Anyone else? Oh, okay, can we get it to the young lady here?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mehek Bansal, and I'm from the Greater Noida campus, and I'm doing my master's in public policy. So as students of public policy, I would like to know, you talked about the NEP collab. So how, in your perspective, this policy is evolutionary in foreign as well as education perspectives?
Mr. Thivios, I think they're all being directed because you spoke about it.
Look, it is very exciting for us. So in terms of the national education policy, I think that there was it gives it the structure. It sits behind what we're able to do between Australia and India. As I told you, as you would know, that the NEP looks at internationalisation, but it's not internationalisation one way. We both learn from one another. It's trying to take the best of India and the best of Australia in terms of education and bringing them together. Some of the projects that we're currently working on, we've had some very small projects. India is quite interesting. When I speak to the Indian government, because I deal with both the Ministry of Education and also the Ministry of Skills Development and Entrepreneurship, we have very, very small grants, but we use those so they are beneficial for both countries. For example, we had a small agriculture project. Now, that agriculture project came up with some courses. It was approved by NCVET, and some of those courses are being used in India currently. We have another one now that we're working on about rooftop installers. We have another small project that we're actually working with our Indian colleagues, and I'm the facilitator, so I'm not the expert, but we have experts on both sides in terms of early childhood education and care. Another small project to look at doing, and what we do is we do a gap analysis. We look at what may be lacking in the Indian program or the course and the Australian one, and what we do is we upgrade that particular course so it is at a standard that, while it's not actually recognised in Australia, it's still at the same level, if that makes sense. But we take the best of the Indian as well. Without the NEP, we wouldn't have been able to do that. The other thing we have is, and it's the only country Australia has it with, we have an annual meeting between our ministers. So we had 3 ministers here in May last year, education ministers, I should say. We had the Minister for Education, the Minister for Skills, and also the Minister for International Education as well. And they met with our counterparts. We meet every year. Now, I can say that having 3 ministers in India at the same time, Australian ones who decided after the big meeting that we had to go their different ways, it's a little bit stressful. There were so many meetings and so many things to organise, but very, very fruitful for both countries. We have this annual meeting. The next meeting will happen in Australia. So each year it's either Australia or India, and therefore that allows this collaboration to continue. Without the NEP, we would not have any international universities in India. And that opens up the door for students to study at an international campus in India, but it also opens up for further collaborations with the universities in India as well. So these sort of things have come as a result of the NEP, and for Australia, of the strategy that we have also drafted and released that sits together with it. I think at the end of the day, not only are you Indian citizens, I'm an Australian citizen, I'm a Greek citizen, I would think as well, not formally. My culture is Greek. So therefore, I think there's a bit of a globalisation that happens in terms of what we do, where we are, where we may end up one day as well. And I think it's important that globalisation happens and that we don't lose what we have from our own country. We bring the best of it as well. And I think that's what's happening. That's why I love Indian movies. I also have to say very quickly, I've never bought art before. I now have Indian art. I have Indian carpets and rugs as well. So I don't know, I've been here for 1 year, I've got 2 more years to go, I don't know what will happen after that. But maybe I have a little bit of an Indian beard as well, which perhaps one of my ministers commented on. They said, "You look very Indian, George." And I said, "Dhanyavad." I said, "Thank you." So that's a good thing.
Thank you. And I think after this, not only are you going to be Greek, you're going to be a little bit Indian and Australian as well. Yeah. So I think it's really, but thank you so much. Yes, of course, please.
I want to mention here, very briefly, about the iTech courses that are offered by the Indian government to students all around the world. And I have an example and a person who study every year, because I was working in Venezuela in the Vice Ministry for Asia, Middle East, and Oceania, whose Vice Minister was at that time the current ambassador of Venezuela here in India. And I have one of my colleagues that is working now in the embassy, the consular, Maria Jose Gomez. She was benefited with a grant from iTech to come to study political sciences in Hyderabad. And she had been here for 5 years already. So she was first doing a master and then doctorate. And she received already diploma, and she was very grateful with the Indian authorities. And of course, she means that means that she had a special connection with India too, because so many years living here and living in Hyderabad. She knows very well the country. And this is part of this internationalization of the studies, no? Because means her a special connection with other country. The problem for us in Venezuela is the language, because many people can't speak English. You cannot go in the street in Venezuela and go to the restaurant and ask the food in English. It's impossible because very few people speak other language but Spanish. So it's difficult for them to come here, but some of them did the effort, and finally they conclude their studies here in India successfully.
That's wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen. Yes, please.
So maybe, well, I just want to bring 2 points here. Now, the matter of MOUs, agreement and all that, we have to be cognizant of domestic legislations. So these are partnerships between 2 different legal systems. So we need to have the platform. That's what I just trying to, tell in the previous round. So whether utilize it, whether it's been not being implemented, well, it's very much within the academic community. And as the government, you would see we don't want to interfere the matters of universities. So we want universities to grow in their own way and to have that autonomy. That's what Wilhelm von Humboldt said. So this is number one. The other one is about India-Sri Lanka sort of exchanges. Look, the history that we are focusing right now is less than 0.005% of our bilateral relationship. So we have had 2,000 years of exchanges happening between the two countries. So we happen to be the current phase of the two countries. Well, there comes in all these agreements, MOUs and all that. And I think, this kind of cooperation will continue to grow. And it is very much visible if you really look at the high intensity of, head of state, head of government, and ministerial delegations happening every week. So I'm quite optimistic about, I don't really want to be specific, or rather to promote one specific institution in any country. But I would say that from as far as the universities are concerned, you see that these universities are growing very conscious about their global ranking and their positioning. So if you really look at how these universities are ranked right now, the international student percentage is quite important factor, and the employability, and also the faculty members, how many professors visiting and all that going on. So I think to that end, I think there is a great deal of incentive, interest on all countries. Try not to be very exclusive about a particular partnership, but to have that dialogue going on. So I think, we will continue to play the role of the facilitator, the enabler, the platform. Well, it's very much within your sphere to sort of fine-tune and go ahead. Political will is needed. It's very much there. It has been there. It will be there. Thank you.
So that's a good note to end on. Here's looking forward to trust, political will, autonomous universities, and collaboration in hopefully a peaceful world to come. Thank you so much, gentlemen. If I can ask Professor Chaturvedi to please come up on stage to felicitate our guests. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this very interesting and insightful discussion. There is lunch for faculty and students on the lawn, so please join us there. Gentlemen, if I could invite you for lunch as well. Thank you. Please.